Hello there, sword friends. Today I'm going to tell you about this sword right here. It is an oddity in my collection, but a special piece. One that's a little bit old, one that I've had for a long time, one that I've thought about making a review about several times. But what's prompted me to do it is the fact I need to make a very difficult decision. Somebody has made me a very compelling offer on this sword to sell, and well, before I don't get a chance to share it with you anymore, I figure I would now. So this is the Lone Wolf, or Lone Wolf and Cub Katana by Chen. Chen, if you're unfamiliar, is a smith out of Taiwan, I believe. He's the son of Paul Chen, and notably the Hanwei company, and this bears some similarities to some things in Hanwei, at least with the koshirei, but the sword is in certainly a league of its own. Chen, I can't really describe his lineage, but he receives accolades from people much smarter than me on the subject, and this sword is an exceptional sword. It's really great, the polish is nice, and there's a lot of cool things to share, and I'm going to make an attempt at doing that. Before I do that, though, I want to tell you that this sword was $6,000 when it came out, or at least that's what I believe it sold for. But it came with not just this. So I'm going to tell you about this sword in just a second, but first I want to show you some of the other cool bits that it came with. One, there's a big wooden box. I imagine I can leave that to your thoughts, rather than point my camera at the floor and show you the mess. But it's a big wood box. It came with that, but there's some cool stuff in it, and I'm going to show you that. So the sword came with a shirasai, and the shirasai is octagonal in shape. It has some imperfections. I should note before continuing that I got the sword secondhand. It didn't appear used, but it's tough to say what minor imperfections came from usage, from the previous owner, or mishandling, or general handling, versus what would have come from Chen from Sakae Forge, if I'm saying that correctly, himself. Anyway, there's a minor, like, imperfections, divots, things here. But anyway, it's a shirasai. It's a big a big storage scabbard. It has a bit worth noting. Right in here, this has a small kind of horn area where the mikugi would be placed, and underneath here, there's something very interesting, and that is a shonaizuka. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but it is basically a wooden blade. It's got a wooden habaki on it, and basically it mimics the sword itself. And this allows me to keep this in the storage scabbard, or if I remove the koshirei from the blade itself, I would be able to use this and be able to display the Lone Wolf shirasai or not shirasai, the Lone Wolf fittings on display along with the blade in a storage scabbard. You can see it's a wooden habaki. The wooden habaki is actually made better than many of the metal habaki. I thought it's worth sharing because you don't see this kind of wooden storage sword. This is a thing that's offered. It's very light and very easy to break, but really, I mean, well made. It has a clean ridge. It really mimics the sword itself well. Obviously, it's a little whippy thing, and if I move it around too much, it would certainly degrade or break, but overall it fits in and allows the scabbard to remain in one piece. This is obviously not the sword from Chen, but it is an example. I think this may actually be the shonaizuka, or rather some partial sword. Usually I have a little wooden nubbin made so that I can keep the things made rather than the full-on sword. So having the sword come with the full wooden sword is certainly an upgrade, and this is what I'm used to using, but obviously this isn't necessarily a great example to show, but you can see that this is one option. Coming with the full sword is certainly an improvement, something even better. Inside there were two silk sword bags, and they appear to be similar to what you would expect to get from Hanwei. Hanwei sells a lot of, I've had a lot of swords from Hanwei, and inside there were two silk bags that were similar to what you would get on any higher-end Hanwei type sword, the reddish silk type bag. Now, I'm not sure why, but it actually came with two cleaning kits that look basically like standard Hanwei cleaning kits. They come with uchiko powder and a little mallet and some other bits, but it did come with two cleaning kits. Now this is a fun one as well. It came with what looks like a certificate of authenticity. It has a nice, well, this is certainly being blown out here, but it's a nice kind of silk looking bag with the Sakae Forge logo. Again, saying the name correctly, some embossed or kind of minted paper with the logo kind of pressed in. Are we able to see that? Maybe. Alright, some bits about the sword itself, some details are on here, and a little photo. I'm not sure exactly what this is. Made in Taiwan, 2016. But some documentation that shows some prestige for the sword. I suppose it's not terribly common for a sword to come with these documents. You see it a lot on mass production swords. You see it, namely the really cheap ones, and you also see certificates and things like that with really higher end or graded Japanese swords. But it's pretty rare to see a modern production type sword or a modern custom sword to come with documents like these. People don't generally take the time, and I don't know if Ron does on every sword, but this one in particular came with it. The last bit to share before I move on to the sword itself is this scroll that came with the sword. Now, unfortunately, I don't recall what these are called, but what you can see is that it has basically a life-size drawing and an outline of the sword itself, and you can see it's penciled in really well done, and it shows kind of the character and all of that cool bits on the sword. It hangs on the wall. I can't remember what these are called, but again, you see them on really nice Japanese swords, so the fact that it came with something like this is certainly very cool. And one thing that I find a little bit strange, and I guess I don't know if that's something that if this is just the previous owner has downgraded some of the stuff, or if it just uses some Hanwei components. But this is a very fine piece of art. Honestly, I really like the scroll. I like the attention to detail. This is fantastic, and it certainly steps up the level a little bit. But Hanwei sword cleaning kits and Hanwei bags, I think those are, at least to me, maybe it's because I've had so many of them, they just seem beneath the quality of the rest of the sword. And I guess that's what I'm going to get to on the actual sword itself. So the Lone Wolf and Club Katana, basically what you're going to see before I pull out the blade is something that I'm going to hark on a little bit, and that's because this sword seems, the koshiri seems shitty. Not shitty exactly, that's not necessarily fair, but it seems beneath the caliber of the sword. You saw that it came with a very nice shirasai. It came with a wooden sword inside to display the scabbard. It came with a really nice bit of pencil artwork that shows the outline of the sword. Those are all very high grade, amazing, cool things. This koshiri seems like it would find itself at home in the Hanwei line. It's cast and it's detailed in the sense that other Hanwei pieces are, but it lacks the refinement of a really handcrafted, well-made individual sword, and I really think that the whole koshiri set is completely beneath the rest of the sword, perhaps with the exception of the Sakae, which honestly seems quite nice. And I'll show you that right now, because this is probably the part I'm not going to harp on. It's a little two-tone. It's begun to fray slightly, but it's just a two-tone brown Sakae. I do like this. Anyway, let's talk about the fitting. So here is the Wolf Kasha, and I like the design. First off, I like this, like I like the Oni Katana Kashira on here, and that it's got a cool, angry face, and I think it's imposing and awesome, but it's still cast, and you can make out a lot of the kind of smaller details that really point out how, well, just kind of how lacking it is. If this were shakudo and kind of, if it weren't just an impersonation of what it's trying to be, I would like it a lot more, but unfortunately, it misses the mark a little bit for me. Design, excellent, but execution, meh. And this continues. So we see the shiridome, they're on there, I suppose they're nice, but these transitions are not well placed. This is not a great fit and finish for a sword in this price point. I would like to see it better fit where there are no transitions or ledges. The diamonds are reasonably consistent, but you can see here's a small, here's a big, here's a bigger. Small. They move around similar to the Hanwei pieces. The Minuki are wolves, and these are tougher to tell in terms of cast. They're still cast, but I suppose they blend a little bit better. Or at least I don't notice the casting as much on the Minuki, but again, I would like them to be better. The brown silk on here, it's a nice enough silk. The panel underneath is nice enough. It's got large samegawa, but it has just kind of a very conventional Hanwei shape. Here we go. This is the fuchi. It's kind of adorned on one side. It's got the wolf face. Again, I like the design. The wolf face here, very, very nice, but again, cast, and it looks smeary and meh. You know, as a cast fitting set, this is very alluring. If it were sold separately, I imagine it would be very popular, but it feels very mass production swordy as opposed to custom awesome swordy. The Tsuba, again, Design, great. It's got an angry wolf face. I like the silver detail on the teeth and the gold detail in the eye and the kind of black everywhere else. It also, you know, as a cast piece, it's good. It's not a badly cast sword by any means, but it's still cast. It's still not great, and I guess I would like to see, well, I've said it many times, something a little more bespoke to the sword itself. The reverse side shows a wolf howling at the moon. Again, design-wise, I do want to give compliments design-wise to the fittings, especially as I go over them now. I can kind of remark on how much I really appreciate the overall aesthetic. The wolf theme is really quite cool, but I'm just not overly enthused with the execution. I imagine if this was a cast of a fitting set, that the original kind of carved set must be quite cool. This eye has a nifty paint job on it. It's got this alternating pattern of black and gray and a high gloss finish, but realistically it's big and clunky and really doesn't have any taper. It's overbuilt, and it seems basically like a Hanwei saya, like something from a mass production sword. So to reiterate, the design of the fittings would probably be my second favorite piece. I still actually like the Oni, but this comes in as a close second to my second favorite kind of cast fitting set that I've seen. And it's well designed and well done for what it is, but I would like to see it, basically I would have preferred something not with these wolf fittings that was handmade by Ron or some other craftsman, but that's, I suppose, a personal choice. The fit of the handle and the overall execution, this basically seems like it was fit up by somebody on the Hanwei mass production line, and that's not necessarily bad, but those swords cost $1,000 to $2,000. This sword was $6,000. Despite the fact it came with a bunch of extra bobs and bells and whistles, it still seems odd that it's like any other mass production sword. And I don't know if that's necessarily the case with many other Ron Chen pieces. I believe he is more than capable of executing at a higher level than this. This just happens to be somewhat unimpressive given the quality of what you're about to see, which is the sword. Before I talk about the blade, I want to show you this habaki. It is really nice. It's a two-piece habaki, silver, and I don't know if it's copper or shakudo, or shibuichi, I'm not entirely sure. But it is a two-piece habaki. It has a scratch pattern, and it seems of a quality that is fitting. It's at least not standard and nice and bespoke to this sword. I wish that the rest of the fittings shared that in common with this habaki. The sword itself is well polished. Ron does a great job on the sword. It really has a lot to appreciate. There's a hada that is subtle, and I hope it comes out in the light here, but overall, really well executed. This is I'm not sure what steel it's made out of, but it is, I believe, a kobusei laminate blade. It's folded and basically made like a traditional Japanese style sword. It at least has a lot more in common with that than many of the mass production pieces do. It's not completely Japanese in its execution, but very close. Ron Chen did a great job, and this is really a wonderful looking sword. Hopefully some of those details are coming out here. I like the polish, it's bold, but if you are able to, you can kind of see that underneath here there's some detail that you're able to spot. It gives you a lot to appreciate and look at. I really love the look of this sword. Now, that's not to say this sword is perfect. There are some very minor imperfections along the surface of the steel. I will see if I can get them out in the camera here. So right in here you can probably make one out. Where the laminate takes place, there are just some minor imperfections that in the right light you can kind of make out. They're cosmetic in nature, and it's not the worst thing, but it would be nice if they weren't there. Alright, some other bits that I like about it. It's long. Now the curve doesn't follow quite right. It seems to kind of straighten out towards the handle, but overall I like the sword. It's long and it's the right length for me, and it feels fantastic in the hand, and I really like some things about it. Now, I've told you numerous times at this point that I'm not really a fan of the Koshirai, but I do want to note that it well, it is endearing in some way, and that Chen is a very talented swordsmith, and he made the sword with traditional methods and all of the cool things that you want a sword to be made out of, or at least that I want a sword to be made out of. This laminated, folded, painstaking, traditional process by a talented person to be done. That's done on the sword, and it's done in an aesthetic that's really well executed and well done. I'm really a fan of the sword. I'm a fan of the length. And Hanwei is one of the first companies that interested me in Japanese swords. They were among the first swords that I picked up, and some of the first ones that I got to swing around, and they'll always hold kind of a special place in my heart. So to have this be similar to what you would expect to get on some of those production swords, it kind of tells a story of the father and the son, if you will. The father, Paul Chen, making similarities between this and the son, who is executing things on a new and higher level, and obviously at a higher price point as well. Anyway, I do think it tells a compelling story. I do like it, and for $6,000, it's not bad. Bear in mind that this is a very complicated, handmade, awesome sword, and really for $6,000, it would be fair to expect that price in a sword like this with a Shirasaya, or just a polished sword of this type of caliber for $6,000 wouldn't be surprising. And the fact that you get the polished sword made with those methods, and the koshirai, and the scroll, and the box, and the cleaning kits, and the blah blah blah, really is a very compelling offering. I can't say that it is at all a bad deal. Well, there are some things I would like to change. I've seen Chen's work in later iterations or on other custom projects, and very often he does use more elaborate fittings and things like that. The Lone Wolf and Cub, or Lone Wolf sword, is just the example that I have to show, and well, it is a bit of an oddity. I think Chen very often uses different pieces. The main thing that you want to look at is really the blade, and from the blade's perspective, it's really quite good, very stunning, very well executed. I enjoy it quite a bit. It's got a shape that's a little bit off, but I like the polish. I like the overall look and size of the blade and how it feels in the hand. Well, sword friends, I need to decide what I'm going to do with it. I brought this out to share with you. I've wanted to make a review on it for some time, and I'm guessing this is pretty lackluster and doesn't necessarily answer every question. But hopefully it's been interesting for you to watch, for you to see, and if you have any questions, throw them down below. Now I need to decide if I'm going to accept this very compelling offer. It's a handsome sword and one I've enjoyed having, but honestly it sits on a wall, and while it looks great there, well, maybe it's time to move it on. Anyway, that's all I have for you. I hope you've enjoyed the video. As always, cheers, and thanks for watching.